Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Orange Pill Podcast with Max and Stacy. My name is Graham Elwood, and we have Max and Stacy. Say hello, Max. Say hello, Stacy.
Hello, everybody.
Say hi, Stacy.
Hola, todos.
You have a fantastic hat, Stacy.
Oh, yeah. I was going to put it on maybe, but I wasn't sure if my hair would work with it today,
Looks great either way.
Bitcoin country.
Bitcoin country.
Yeah.
So we're here in beautiful San Salvador.
Yeah.
And you guys just had dinner with the president.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome. I presented him with an official Bitcoin yo-yo from Duncan. They made these limited edition Bitcoin yo-yos. And so I got 20 or 30 of them, and I've been giving them out. And so, yeah, I presented him with his presidential Bitcoin yo-yo, and he was thrilled. It comes with a real orange string. I thought that was interesting.
Nice.
And it's for the ups and downs of the Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up and down, up and down. You can experience that with this official Duncan Bitcoin yo-yo, butterfly yo-yo. So that was, I think, the highlight of the whole evening with the president.
That's a cool yo-yo.
I like the advertisement for that. If you look for it, I don't know, on one of those sites like Amazon, they say it comes with a real orange string.
Yeah, genuine orange, real genuine Bitcoin orange string. Okay, they went all out with this model. This is the kind. Speaking of crazy things you see online to buy, these Lego. When I was a kid, you build like a little house out of Lego, and that's it. You can buy a 9,000 piece Titanic Lego set that's 6 feet long. And that's crazy. Lego's become something amazing.
And build the Titanic.
Build the Titanic, build the Eiffel Tower, build the Colosseum, build the whole world. Build the house out of Lego. They probably could deliver a house on Amazon. Give me a house made of Lego. It'll show up for like $12,000.
That's interesting. I'm sorry to jump on your moment there, but I was going to say, I also saw this week the introduction of this new AI, Sarah, and how you have the emergence of a class of large Lego structures on one side, and then in the other side you have like hyper reality on the other side, right?
Who is this? You mean what is Sarah?
So it's a new open AI software. Have you seen that? It creates amazing like video. You just prompt it.
Oh, yeah.
With you say like have a hummingbird fly outside a window looking at a woman crying. And it creates a scene looks real. It looks like Martin Scorsese directed. Though I don't think Martin Scorsese would really have a scene with a hummingbird.
I don't know a lot of Scorsese hummingbird scenes, but no, I know what you're talking about. There is, several months ago, the AI generated stuff looked sort of like computer generated stuff.
Yeah.
Now it looks like video.
Yes.
Like I just watched one, it was like puppies playing in the snow, and I watched it several times.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell that it was fake.
Right. Now I saw something on Twitter. It's text to video. You type in text and it creates the video. And the tagline was Hollywood is about to go bankrupt, about to go out of business, because you could essentially take your script, your 90-page script, and throw it into the AI machine, and it would come back with your movie. Right. So do you need the whole Hollywood infrastructure? So is Hollywood going to be disintermediated? And by the way, all the characters and actors are AI generated with no salaries to pay. And all the storylines are like sampled. The way the music industry sampled from the hip hop industries are samples of the music that came before the hip hop industry. And they created a multi-billion-dollar industry on the fragmentation of the previous music industry and the ability to sample little bits and pieces. So movies, I would imagine, would be the same. So you're watching and you're seeing, let's say, a half of a second of a Saving Private Ryan scene mixed in, but it's sampled. So it's not going to be a copyright violation. It's too teeny weeny. And then, or mimicked, or you can't really prosecute, or it's gone before you even know how to prosecute because 10 million people watched it, then it made it disappear.
Yeah, well, I don't even think it has to be a sample with the way this technology is. You can say, give me a battle sequence similar to Saving Private Ryan with no-name actors, and it'll do it, because I've already been playing around with, like I put together a movie treatment for a film I'm putting together, and I wanted artwork for it. And I said, do this artwork in the style of this comic book guy. And they were like, boom. And they kicked it out. And I put a couple of tweaks in there, add this and this for the story. And it
But
did that.
isn't part of the motivation? You moved to El Salvador after the strike in Hollywood, and the entire industry is being turned upside down because part of the issue for the strike by the actors, et cetera, was that they were trying to get rights in perpetuity to their image, which they were not too successful in doing. But that'll make the salaries go way, way down. So the place for the new frontier for new opportunities would be here. I think that's part of the reason you're here.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely one of the reasons I'm here. I walked the picket line all summer. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA, and I walked the picket line with my, people in the WGA, and that was a huge thing. Was they're going to just, rather than come on the set for a week or 2 weeks, you come on for one day, and then they just replicate your image, and that was a big thing we were fighting for. And I was like, I'm just watching Hollywood, censorship, the wokeness, all of the other stuff, and as we've discussed, I'm pretty lefty, but I don't like the censorship of the woke crowd. And that's one of the reasons I came here. Is like, let's make cool stuff. Let's make stuff where we're not censored, everyone in the Bitcoin space is like, how can I bring my skills and assets to Bitcoin and use it? And so I'm like, there's not a lot of like Hollywood types in Bitcoin right now. It's mainly, tech and finance people.
Well, listen, so I worked in Hollywood for a long time. I started out when I was like 19 years old as a D girl. And they still had that word. I don't think they use it anymore, but development girl, they probably don't use it because it would be considered sexist, right? Because you say girl, D girl. So I worked for a producer, Michael Phillips, who made Taxi Driver, Close Encounters, and The Sting. And I joined him right when he was Mercury Entertainment with Michael Douglas. And the thing about Hollywood is it's censorship in a way. It's a toll booth economy. And it's the only one it was like the last stronghold of a toll booth economy with tons and tons of middlemen. So in order to get a script made, like Max was saying, you could just enter the text now of your script that you wrote in Dubuque. Where's Dubuque? In Iowa?
It's in Iowa. Yeah, that's correct. That's in Iowa.
Yeah, of course.
Shout out to everybody watching in Dubuque, Iowa.
And then so you could input your script and it creates the masterpiece you have in your mind, or it's horrible and you delete it, right? You just move it to the trash bin. Before, and say they did create a masterpiece, before they would have had to go look up on, what was that portfolio, that book you used to have, the Hollywood, there was a little paper notebook that people would buy, and it had the list of all of the companies, all the talent agents, all of the film companies, which ones were accepting scripts, unsolicited scripts. So I would receive like a pile of scripts, and we weren't a huge company, but other ones would receive hundreds a week, and we would have to read all the scripts. So this is how, like, if you wrote that script now, you could just input it into AI and create a movie within a few hours. Here they had to find somebody willing to open the envelope, look inside the envelope, pull it out and read it. And then I would have to write notes, like a 2-page report, a synopsis of it for my boss, and whether or not I liked it, and, all that sort of stuff. So that was just like the very beginning step. Imagine then you have a talent agents to find the cast, and then you have, booking agent, all sorts of casting agents, a whole huge slew of middlemen that are now just like wiped out. Here's just the places where I've used it already. Yeah. You can put a script in there and say, just summarize this script. So again, that reader job you're talking about at all the agencies, that's gone. Yeah. I also did it for a legal contract, for a licensing deal. I said, summarize this, and you have to give it prompts. You have to go to like a legal AI website that does, and say, give it these specific prompts. And it broke down, well, this is what because it's in all this legal speak that I didn't quite understand. It says, well, this is what this means. And I was like, oh, so now I sent back changes, and I'm negotiating
with a machine.
With a machine, and then the machine is then giving my version that I'm sending to this production company. So I'm using a machine to negotiate for me, and I'm like, why do I need a lawyer?
Right, you don't. So all those high-priced lawyers, that's it. They're disintermediated, middleman out, right? So where's this all going? Creatively, it will just be derivatives upon derivatives upon derivatives, because Hollywood is already a very derivative industry where they keep making the same 3 movies over and over again. How many times did they have to remake Batman? Batman has been remade now, 417 times. Every single summer, there's a new Batman. This year's Batman, it's even darker. This Batman is so dark, there's going to be in complete blackness, and you won't be able to hear anything. It'll be muffled from a guy in the back row. It's so dark, it's not there. Right? I mean, where can they go with this Batman?
Just a flashlight under his head.
Right.
Just going,
Like, and then,
I'm Batman.
yeah, like Blair Witch Project. You
Yeah.
know, just like all they needed was a flashlight. Essentially, that was the only prop. But okay, that's where the Batman's going. So where's it going though? What creatively can we expect from all this? I mean, I don't know.
I think what's going to happen is people are creative. I've talked to a lot of creative friends of mine, and they're using AI in a creative way. They're putting their creative ideas out there. And in some ways, like what Stacy's talking about, you wanted to do this creative thing. You had to jump through all these middlemen and these hoops. I think that's the smart creatives will go, oh, I have this idea. I don't need I don't need the middlemen anymore. I can say, let's do this video. Let's do this thing. I'm going to come up with my concept. AI is going to do a lot of the work on it. I'll hire some voiceover actors or whatever. And then I don't know. It's really, we're in a bold new world.
You get rid of the casting couch.
Yeah, that's gone.
There's no reason.
The agents. I mean, all of these, like you said, it's a whole industry of like 5 layers of middlemen that you could effectively eliminate, which I'm all for, because the gatekeepers in Hollywood are the most frustrating aspect of it.
Yeah. What about like the idea of the writer's room? You know, like in the sitcoms and other TV productions and in film productions, you have a group of writers. You have 5 or 6 writers in a room. They're writing collectively. And there's something that's kind of unique to actually the American entertainment industry, because in the European industry, they don't have that idea. It's just one writer. And that's a lot of times why a lot of the films in Europe, et cetera, are kind of stilted and one-dimensional, because there's like one writer. But here you have this group of writers, and they're all throwing ideas around. But in an AI situation, you don't really have that.
Yes, you can. Yeah, yes, because you can input into it. Like you could add into your writer's room, like Aristotle, Jefferson. You could put in Orson Welles. You could put in.
So Aristotle and Orson Welles to write a remake of Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
Done. Book it. Go.
Right? And then we're starring Pee Wee Herman in a recreated from the afterlife, and
Charlie Chaplin
and Brad Pitt. So give me that movie. That sounds like a good movie. I mean, I'd watch the first 30 seconds, maybe.
It's really interesting, because the writer's room is I've worked in some writer's rooms, and when it's like any sort of like a team sport. When you get a good team of writers in a room, you can come up with great ideas, because the creative like starts. This person has this idea, that boom, 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 and these ideas float around. All of a sudden, you come up with this like script that's like really inventive, or episodic TV that has writers' rooms, especially comedy writers' rooms.
Yeah, you know what would be great is where this could really work out well is replace that show Saturday Night Live with a new AI comedy show, and have the material written by AI but make it funny. Because Saturday Night Live became hugely political. It's political agitprop. It's no longer comedy in the sense that it's what we'd expect a comedy to be. Lorne Michaels is trying to make a political statement, and it's never ever funny anymore, except maybe sporadically. But imagine doing Saturday Night Live where you have like, okay, we're going to put John Belushi in a writer's room with Dan Aykroyd and Dave Chappelle, and it's going to be also George Carlin, and they're going to create sketches for this new AI Saturday Night Live type show.
I think
it would do better than the Saturday Night Live show.
Part of the problem in terms of Saturday Night Live is it's gotten really corporate. Now, it used to, when it first started in the 70s, they were like, nobody even knew what they were doing up on their floor of the 30 Rock building. Right. They were just like, they were anarchists. I mean, up there smoking weed and doing crazy stories. And so they were really challenging stuff. And now it's sort of like, it goes through this team of suits effectively, and now they're just trying to do certain types of political stuff because they want America either on red team or blue team or whatever. And so it's effectively has killed it. You watch the first couple of seasons of Saturday Night Live in the 70s. It was unreal, man. The stuff that they did, in my opinion, I thought it was brilliant.
Because Saturday night, like at 10 or 11 at night, was a dead zone for commercials. So they had free time. They're like, we'll do a comedy show. We'll hire these unknown Canadian comics, and we'll probably sell more ads than dead air. Yeah. And so they did it, and it became a classic. But now with the clips and social media, this stuff gets repeated. It's highly corporatized. It's a big revenue stream. It's big business. And so with more money, less funny.
It's like Ugly George. You know, he was super famous on local access television in New York City. But if in terms of philosophers, who do you think would be a better writer? If you were to have only one philosopher of these three in your writer's room, who would you have? Socrates, Plato, or Aristotle?
Probably Socrates.
Yeah, I think he was more of an asshole. And usually people in Hollywood and writers especially are assholes. So.
He has more of an edge. He has more of I think you want writers that challenge things. Like if I think of classic TV writers like Rod Serling or Patty Chayefsky,
Yeah.
they always challenge stuff.
Yes.
And that to me is what
Yeah.
Socrates seemed to do more of.
Yes.
Yeah,
Aristotle would be the actor. He's
I think
more
Aristotle
like
would be a pain in the ass, wouldn't he?
the
Because he
Charlatan.
came up with the formula for writing
Writing,
beginning,
yeah.
middle, and end. So I'd be
Yeah.
like, you can't do it that way because according to me, and I'm Aristotle, you're not you're obeying the law that I wrote about writing.
So when I was at UCLA, I studied screenwriting in one of my courses, and Aristotle's Poetics was all of that we were required to read. And it's, of course, a little pamphlet. And he tells the basic tenets of great storytelling. It's either man versus nature, or man versus himself. Drama is the best. Comedy is not as good. He said, so
Well, there you go.
That's the guy that started making comics feel like we're at the kids' table. That asshole. That's why I wouldn't want him in a
We don't
goddamn
want him in
writer's
the
room.
writers' room.
No.
Get out, Aristotle, you prick.
Because I'll tell you what, Aristotle was the first guy to go, man, I'm probably not that funny,
Yeah.
so I'm going to shit on comics. We've always been, there's no comedy category at the Oscars. And you know what? Brad Pitt and Meryl Streep, they're fine actors. They can't do what I do. They can't stand on a stage and make
No.
room for 300 people, strangers laugh.
no.
They can't. So I need an Oscar.
God damn it, you're right. Whereas Socrates, kills himself drinking hemlock. Can't
That's
get
funny.
funnier than that.
And most comics commit suicide anyway. So
I was doing this. So it's
Yeah,
like
I
he's
mean,
an
it is funny. That's funny because he did that. He had the choice actually to, he could be expelled, right? Exiled. He could just leave town, and everybody's like, "Get the hell out of town, Socrates. We all hate you." And he's like, "No, I'll take the punishment of hemlock instead."
Yeah, and everyone's
It's
like,
such
that's a
writer-
comic. Comics have a very loner, me against the world
Yeah.
mentality. You have to travel.
You
and
have
go
to drink the hemlock.
You have to drink hemlock
every night.
You know how many comics I know
Yes.
have committed suicide?
Right.
It's a lot. It's
And
a
then
lot.
there's like a guy in drums like, ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, exactly.
There's Socrates. All right, fuck you. Drink the hemlock. Ba-dum-bum.
I
There
mean-
he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Socrates every Thursday night here at Yuck Yucks in Athens.
Or Tommy Cooper
Tommy Cooper died. The English comedian. He died on stage.
on stage.
Uh,
People were laughing their asses off in the audience. They thought he was joking because he fell over. on
That's the greatest bit ever. What comic would want to go out that way?
He went out like a comedian.
I
Yeah.
would. I mean, if I was like, I'm done, I would probably,
The
either-
biggest laughs of your life would be right when you died on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd blow my head off on stage as long as I got a laugh. I don't care.
Ba-dum-bum.
I
There he
mean,
goes.
if it boosts the ratings of this show, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever.
God damn it. You know it. God, God,
What? Put some hemlock in
Get
there.
Yeah.
some- get
Do
a-
it. Let's see if it works.
Let's get some hemlock going.
Well, the one we left out is Plato. I mean, why is Plato being left out of this conversation? Is
Platonic conversations. Like
Well-
Plato's boring. He's the middle child, essentially. It's
Right.
Socrates first, then Plato, then Aristotle.
Well,
I'm the middle child. I'm the middle child of 3 sisters, and I'm also the middle child. You're probably Gen X too, right?
Yeah.
It's Gen X is the middle child generation. Nobody thinks of us. Nobody
I know.
remembers us. They ignore us. And so, nobody's even talking about this guy at this table.
Plato?
Who the hell is he?
the word Platonic comes from Plato.
Yes.
Right? That sounds boring.
Yeah.
It's like jokes with no laughs.
Yeah.
It'd be like a woman doing comedy. It's like all premise, no punchline. It's like one big premise. 20 minutes later, is there a punchline? Hello?
I know a lot of funny female comics, so I'm not going to endorse that statement that you just said.
Oh my God. He's just trying to be controversial.
I know,
And
Max tried
it's
to-
basically drinking the hemlock, essentially. It's like committing
But
suicide.
I'm out.
Again, that's what comics love doing.
Yeah.
Comics love, like, if you're not crushing, it's like, how do I walk the room? How do I?
Yeah.
Comics, one of the things that we love talking about is like, what's the worst thing I could say on stage that would get the whole crowd to hate me? Like, we love,
Yes,
we love.
that's Max every day in life. That's how he operates through life.
But
It's
that's,
like
but that's
usually
the
everybody
comedy
hates
mindset.
him.
That is.
That's the comedy mindset. And if you can do it to the point where it's not quite as lethal as it can be, then you get a laugh. Like laughter is that one last breath before death. It's like, I'm going to die. I need to breathe one more. You're dead. But speaking of female comics, like in my opinion, Sarah Silverman is very funny, and she's genius comedic actor, and also her stand-up is deadly funny, very, very funny, and she takes it really to place and is very funny. But I mean, so that would be a great female comic, right? Do you have any female comics that you think?
I think Sarah's very funny. I think Tig Notaro's very funny. Tig is like gets really dark and really clever and really smart.
I think Roseanne Barr, she's good. Right, she's a little bit. She's
a little
committing suicide on stage.
She pushes that up. She gave her a show after all that. They gave it back to her, and what did she do? She blew herself up again. Yeah. After bringing back that show after so many years, she did the same thing all over again. She did a.
Who's the comedic actress? Who played Liz Lemon? What's her name?
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey. Yeah, she's great.
She's great.
I don't know about. She doesn't do stand up.
Doesn't stand up.
No, but she's a comedic actress. I mean, no, she's not a stand up. But she's
Wanda Sykes.
Wanda Sykes is very funny.
Funny.
Wanda Sykes is legit funny.
Yeah.
Who else do I?
You were in Las Vegas for a while. I mean, you surely have seen some other acts there.
Yes.
You didn't just go watch David Copperfield every night.
And Carrot Top.
Why is Carrot Top still playing Vegas? I mean, I thought he disappeared from the scene, and then I went to Vegas once, and I'm like, for the 30th year.
Yes.
Carrot Top selling out. I'm like, wait, what? Carrot Top is selling out in Vegas?
Well, that's the thing is like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like huge hits there are unknown completely outside. These are people making $1 million a night, and they're like superstars there, and nobody has ever heard of them outside of Vegas. You go there, and they're like, wow,
Danny Gans.
Yeah, who?
Exactly.
Who?
Danny Gans in the 90s was like this huge act that you never knew who he was unless you went to Vegas and saw his poster everywhere. Danny Gans, the number one entertainer, and he just had like a big, nice head of fake hair and like makeup all the time, and probably had like tattooed eyeliner on or whatever. And everyone knew who Danny Gans was because I worked Vegas. But again, exactly, you're a great example. Anyone outside of there was like, who's Danny Gans? Rita Rudner has been in Vegas for 20 some years doing shows.
No kidding.
Yep.
Because I remember her name from 20 years ago.
Yes.
Wow. She's still doing it.
Because what happens is if you make any sort of name, and these Vegas casinos, they'll pay really good money. Frank Caliendo was big. He was doing all the shows for the NFL. And then one of the casinos said, here's whatever, 10, 20,
I thought you were
30.
going to say, here's Johnny.
Yes.
But no,
it
was
Frank Rich, the impersonator. Frank Rich is the
Rich
movie.
Little.
Rich Little.
Rich Little.
Frank Rich is the movie critique for the New York Times like 30 years ago. The show you were.
He is funny.
He's hilarious. When he panned, Star Wars, I was rolling in the aisles. Frank Rich's review of Star Wars, hilarious.
Jar Jar Banks.
Jar Jar.
That was not funny, right?
Jar Jar wasn't funny. Why wasn't Jar Jar funny? Jar Jar is when the Star Wars franchise died.
Oh, they killed it. That prequel that was awful. That ruined everything.
Like everyone was watching this movie, like waiting for the payoff. Like, this is going to get good, better. This is going to get better. I know this is going to get better. I know we're going to see something incredible. And then Jar Jar Binks appears, and it's like, oh fuck, this is a disaster.
This is awful.
The guy who played that character, though, like there was a guy behind the costume or whatever, and he got like death threats. His family got death threats. Like Star Wars fans are obsessive already, but they were like, "You ruined our franchise. Now we're losers at this Star Wars convention." Everybody's making fun of us. Basically, Jar Jar Banks committed suicide for the franchise.
He was the Aristotle of the Star Wars.
Socrates.
Socrates, right? I'm sorry.
He's Socrates of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Well, we sorted that out, thank God.
Okay. Now, I see the title of the show is something about ordinals. Like,
well, Max, you wanted to talk
bit on
about
it.
You wanted to talk about
Max has a comedy bit, I hope.
It's kind of like a comedy bit, kind of. It was like because I thought about it when I saw recently people were vandalizing the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. They're throwing soup at the Mona Lisa. And why do they do that? Because the Mona Lisa has been here for 500 years. It's the most viewed piece of art in the world. It'll be here another 500 years. And so if you get a photo of yourself throwing soup at the Mona Lisa, you become somewhat immortal yourself. You're that image of you being vandalizing this priceless work of art will be in the record. So ordinals are basically similar. Like they're people who are attaching or vandalizing or attaching graffiti or what have you to Bitcoin. And because Bitcoin's immortal and because Bitcoin is a beautiful piece of art that'll last for the rest of time, they are by association feel like they are somehow sharing in the spotlight of Bitcoin. And also these people who throw soup at the Mona Lisa, they have some kind of cause. Like they say, right. We're protecting the environment, or we're protecting, the right, some activist right.
Sure.
And same thing with ordinals people. They believe that they're doing something that's socially responsible. I forget exactly what they're trying to do, or say that they're doing. But they have some philosophical message behind it that even Aristotle.
There's a comedic one too. They pretend they're funny. They really, really think they're funny. And if you go see them, like they put on a wizard costume and go up on stage and say they're funny, and you're like, okay, wow. This is not funny. But yeah. Jimmy Song just wrote about this.
Yeah.
And he compared it to Mastercoin, which, it's just an age-old trick, right?
Let's explain what an ordinal is first.
I don't think so, because
it's just a JPEG.
It defies explanation. It's like why
dumb.
It's like garbage. That's
okay. It's layer. It's not even as simple as a JPEG. It's like a JPEG, but worse, like a degraded virtual reality AI version of it. And very complicated. Basically, you pay like a Bitcoin for one sat. Okay. And that,
wow.
I mean, that's funny, right? It's kind of funny that you can find like hundreds of people that willing to do that. It's like, it's like Times Square in the 70s or 80s, right? You can see some wacky things that tourists do.
The show world.
So it's like you're scamming Bitcoin tourists, right? You're selling them, you're taking 2 Bitcoin for them and giving them 1 sat, and they're like, and that's it. So, but we had something back in 2012 or 13 called Mastercoin, and they did a thing, or maybe it was a little bit later, but they raised a whole bunch of Bitcoin and introduced this layer called Mastercoin. And basically they never built anything, because that's the incentive model. That's the thing about Bitcoin, right? Is the incentive model is what keeps the whole system running. If you give somebody, here's Jeff Bezos level money for your idea of building Amazon. Would Jeff Bezos have built Amazon, or would Elon Musk have built SpaceX, Tesla, and all that stuff if you said, here's 300 billion? He would have been like, especially as a young guy, you're maybe like, well, I'm just going to go be a playboy around the world.
I'll take the money. Thank you.
I'll be in Vegas.
Yeah.
Going to see
Danny Gans. And that's pretty much what always happens with those tokens that do a pre-sale. And so Mastercoin became an embarrassment, and they renamed it Omni. But that is like just this week. It's just like they're turning it off, essentially. It's over.
Oh, it's finally turning it off.
Yeah, basically, because the only thing it was still used for was some tether, but that's gone. There's, that's basically what we're seeing with the ordinals. It's just a second layer. They're trying to promote a second layer. They're trying to pretend they're comedians, and they're like a woman comedian, basically. What Max is saying.
It's the latest scam, essentially. But I like my, it's like vandalism, in that regard. But
so Max prefers his analogy better.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. I'm like thinking about it when I think about it in trying to come up with something, this is kind of what I come up with. But at the bottom of the whole cesspool of it's worthless, stupid shit that will be forgotten soon and replaced with another scam. Like the scams keep coming. They just rename them. They give them a different name. Like Jimmy Song was saying, this is just Mastercoin with a different kind of.
Yeah, this is going to be this cycle though, because, the thing is the U.S. regulatory agencies and Department of Justice are all over anybody who creates one of these tokens now, right? So what they're doing instead is launching layer 2 on Bitcoin. They're using the name of Bitcoin because that's the only one that everybody in the world, even Wall Street, figured it out, that it's just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is where that Bitcoin is something special. And they might not understand Wall Street, you know, Larry Fink might not understand why Bitcoin is special, but he knows that's the one to sell.
Right.
So
I mean,
the same
to that
thing,
point,
yeah.
Ether was the coin that with NFTs that they were attaching the shit to, because
Yeah.
Ether still had a life. It still would look like it might be something. But now that it's just dropping like a stone against Bitcoin, all the scammers have migrated from ETH to Bitcoin.
So some of the bigger shitcoins, like this one called Tron, it's just announced that they're moving on to Bitcoin. So they're layer 2 on Bitcoin. So this is going to be this cycle as when Bitcoin gets to 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000, 125,000. As it climbs up that parabolic ladder, you're going to see crazier and crazier stuff being offered on there. Max's yo-yos, like Duncan will probably start offering yo-yos on the blockchain, you know, on the Bitcoin blockchain in particular. And, you know, that's what you're going to see next. And it'll work. It's comedy in a way. People will continue to give a Bitcoin for one sat and not be able to add up the maths on that.
It's an affinity scamming and by association. And if you get some pump and dump, which is a tried and true way to try to extract money from losers, whether it's in a casino or elsewhere, you know, this is like another version of that. So it has this market, like the NFT market, which I don't know if you remember that even 2 years ago. And it was a pump and dump for about 18 months. And this company called Ocean, somebody or other, or something, Great Sea, Open Sea, with a bunch of NFTs, and like all of them have dropped 95, 98, 99%. It's like basically it was just a pump and dump. This is another pump and dump. They're trying to affiliate scam Bitcoin, you know, to make it look like there's something, because all these other things are just now, everything against Bitcoin goes to zero, and same thing with Ether. So this is just the latest version of a scam.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see too with the ETFs and everything, and with the price when it gets to 60 and up, I think you're going to have even more people getting into the space, which means more people ripe to get scammed.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Stacy says. The bear markets are difficult, but the bull markets are more difficult.
That's what with El Salvador, what the Bitcoin office does, and what, you know, Max and I have been doing here for this whole time, is that's one of the things we do is we try to convince the best and brightest to come adopt El Salvador as their headquarters, their home, their spiritual home, their real home, their physical home, to move here, to come here. And the thing that we benefit from is that we have been around forever. Like, we're old, we've been in Bitcoin since 2011. So we know the people who are, you know, smart enough, intelligent enough, good businessmen, agile enough to survive the bear markets. And those are pretty brutal. But more importantly, have survived like 4 or 5 of the bull markets, because that's the hardest. That's actually more difficult to survive in Bitcoin than the bear markets.
How so?
Because if you're a big name, if you are in any of those, you get tempted to be a scammer. Like, you're offered. The 2017 one was pretty crazy. I mean, we received daily 4 or 5 offers to Max. Max was, you know, this is before Saylor and all these big Wall Street names and stuff like that. There weren't that many huge names, famous names in Bitcoin. And Max was certainly super famous back then in terms of, you know, recognition, name recognition. So people were offering like 1,000 ETH or like huge numbers to promote all. And they were really like, you don't have to do a single thing. All we need is your name on our website and a photo of you. And they were offering a lot of money. And we know a lot of people who took that offer, and you know, none of them are around anymore. None of them in Bitcoin space. You know, individually, I guess some could work their way back if they are humble enough and, you know, admit their wrongdoing or whatever. But the higher up you go, whether it's a corporation or certainly a nation state, and that's why we do what we do, is because you can't make that kind of mistake as a nation state, right? Like, you can't get wrecked and humiliated in that sort of fashion. An individual can. And I mean, look at Barstool Sports guy, right? He's hysterical. He deals with it in the best way I've ever seen in terms of getting wrecked and just being so honest about it. Like, I'm such a fucking moron. What a fucking moron I am. And it's comedy. It's really good comedy. And if you could make people laugh at you and with you, then you could survive those. But, like I said, as a nation state, it's kind of difficult to do something on the scale of like Barstool Sports get wrecked like that and just like, for the heads of state to come out and say, whoops, that was funny, wasn't it, guys?
Sorry.
Yeah, Dave Portnoy that's why he's successful, is that he has honesty. He's honest with himself.
Yes.
Successful people they cop to their mistakes and try to figure out why they made a mistake and how do I do better. The people who are not successful tend to be like, pretend like they never made the mistake. They want you to ignore that mistake, and they just do the same mistake over and over again and expect different results, right? And I think also on this 2017 period, 2016 period, which was the explosion of the scam of that era, the ICO, initial coin offering, this is when, and turning down all these deals, millions and millions of dollars to do all these deals, they had to say no. This was the beginning of Bitcoin maximalism for me, because it was at that point that I decided to, we're going to go down this path of Bitcoin only, Bitcoin maximalism, and try to develop a brand that is Bitcoin maximalism. What does that brand mean? And so then in 2020, when Michael Saylor appeared, he became the poster child really for Bitcoin maximalism. But I think it percolated up. I mean, the cypherpunks were always maximalist in their own way. And then 2017, 2016, like we started to hew toward maximalism. And then I think Michael Saylor kind of coined the playbook for maximalism from 2020 going forward. I think that's how that kind of codified.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, that's sort of, I started to get in the space around 2019 and did the thing that a lot of people did. I heard about this coin and that coin and thought all crypto was the same. And then I started listening more to you. And then when Saylor came on, I was like, well, this guy, all he's talking about is Bitcoin. And I was like, huh. And then as I've said before, when the two of you came on my show, which was like April of 2021, 3 years ago, and you were like, everything's a shit coin. I was like, even Ethereum? Come on, that's mean. And you were like, yep. And when you explained to me, because I understand how the government, the two-party system, and the ruling elites and the deep state work, when you said, well, you said to me, he goes, well, Ethereum could be on Amazon servers and the State Department could go shut it down. And I went, oh, because I know how they work. I know how the IMF, like we talked about it.
It's centralized.
They centralized.
It's centralized, therefore vulnerable. And to Stacy's point about being a nation state here in El Salvador, the maximalism, then into El Salvador, it became natural for the country to adopt a maximalist position as well, because it dovetails perfectly with the president and what he stands for, his idea of economic liberty. And also the calculation was made that Bitcoin maximalism, the benefits far, far outweigh a 10,000 to 1, any possible incremental gain by entertaining any shitcoin whatsoever. Cannot possibly add anything.
It's like economic sovereignty, right? You don't have economic sovereignty if you know who the boss is. Vitalik Buterin is there, and Joe Lubin and Ethereum. Solana and all those CEOs and marketing team. Like if those are the boss, right? Those guys are the bosses. So if you could point to the bosses and the marketing team and all of that around a coin, but I mean, I understand. So I understand, like, say Miami got trapped in this whole shitcoin thing, right? There are way more nicer people in shitcoins because they have to be. Like Ted Bundy had to be a nice, charming guy to get women to get into his car at night on campus, right? He had to be nice and charming. Bitcoiners don't need to be charming, and it's a survival mechanism to be toxic. Many species in nature are very toxic. They spew toxic poison like a little puffer fish because they don't want to be eaten, right? The same thing with Bitcoin. You don't want somebody who's super charming, super funny, super attractive to convince you to give them one Bitcoin for their sat and then run away with your Bitcoin and you're left holding nothing.
It's really, and the evidence is in, there's data here to back this up, because again, had you guys not, advised Bukele on this anti-shitcoin law, someone would have come in here and he's a smart guy, but who can know everything? Someone might have sweet talked him and he would have said, yeah, we're going to do Ethereum and this and that. And then
no. He wouldn't have done that.
Right.
He's too smart. But a government is made of tens of thousands of people.
someone in the government.
But we just gave them a place to go, which is like the digital assets law. If it's not Bitcoin, then it's something else. It's a security, like in the US. I mean, it's not codified there, but Gary Gensler says it over and over. Bitcoin is a commodity, he calls it, and everything else is a security. And so we codified that. And what I was saying before, though, the marketing machines around those other coins to convince you to give them your Bitcoin and that you get their coin that they've magicked up. The marketing machine makes it look way more interesting to government sort of officials because they're like, look, you need 10,000 people to run our blockchain. So imagine all the jobs to run this complicated machine. And all you're like, what's the complicated machine about? We don't know, but it's a complicated machine. And we, the owners, the CEOs of this blockchain, we get all the money, but you get to hire 10,000 people as long as and pay them in our token, which costs you nothing, by the way. We'll give some to you and you could hire these people. So it seems like all their marketing terms and all their buzzwords are around like, futuristic, internet, innovation jobs, all sorts of things like that most government officials look at. And Bitcoin's just there. Bitcoin is, and that's difficult to sell to many government officials.
Right, because it's not like, again, a lot of the altcoins have some sort of project, and we're going to do this blockchain with these smart contracts or whatever. And it sounds like, I've heard something, wow, this is really cool. They could do all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a tech guy. That sounds great. And then you realize, no, it's a scam. And then you see in the long haul, and again, Bukele's proved this by, when El Salvador's bought all this Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he received criticism for that. Oh, he's gambling with the people's money when the price came down. And now the price is going back up.
It was opposite of gambling.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
Opposite.
it was securing it.
Yeah.
But
People didn't understand it. So they thought it was gambling, but he actually did the smartest thing of ensuring this country's financial sovereignty. We were saying this on the show like a week or two ago. In 10, 20 years, the citizens of El Salvador are going to be the richest people in the world.
Yes. And you used the operative word there was like you viewed it as tech. They pitch it as tech. And that's the thing that Bitcoin is not tech, really. It's money. Bitcoin is money. And a lot of people get confused about that. When the first tokens first started coming out, before they even did the ICO stuff, like pre-selling, Ethereum started that whole thing. And when people realized how much money they made from pre-selling their token, then obviously tens of thousands of coins soon followed. But before that, there were, a couple dozen coins that had emerged. And I thought like the computer guys who know how to code, they know better. And well, maybe there's going to be something interesting that comes out of that. Like, because it's a technology, it's like the internet, it's like a computer code, it's something geeks can do. But, at least it was the opportunity cost wasn't as high back then, or maybe it was because you could buy a Bitcoin then, you can get a Bitcoin then for like $5.
Yeah.
And instead you didn't, like you were involved in some stupid coin that it wasn't about the tech, it was about the money, right? But now it's the scams are way higher and more sophisticated and more targeted at vulnerable people.
The staking.
Yeah.
Well, it was the atmosphere is very silly. You create silly projects and they're silly in their own right, and it's kind of silly. It was Vitalik Buterin who attacked Bitcoin, and said that Ethereum is better. And then that left. It was not funny anymore. It wasn't silly. It wasn't a fun thing anymore. Then it became like a confrontational. So what we're saying is that Bitcoin needs toxicity, Bitcoin maximalism, and comedy needs toxicity as well. So the hardest Bitcoin maximalist, by that definition, will be the funniest, right?
Yes.
This is what keeps me so funny because I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. And the toxicity of my humor. Therefore, it all works out in one Mobius strip, self-reinforcing, hard comedy, hard Bitcoin, hard money.
Bitcoin is hard money, right? So the thing for comedy, so this is what, you have to have a built-in bullshit detector to be a good comic, right?
Right.
Lenny Bruce said that. You have
Right.
that's what most comics do. They sit there, everyone's talking, the comic sits in the back of the room and goes, that's bullshit. That person's full of shit. That's what a comic does. We started in school and I was in the back of the classroom going, this is dumb. Who's going to ever use geometry? Trigonometry is stupid, and I led the league in detentions, and that's what we do. And Bitcoin is like, it's the ultimate bullshit detector.
In high school, I was the number one tenant of the detention center. Okay. But I started my own TV show in the detention center called The King Kaiser Show. That's how it started. I was so often in the detention center. It's like, I'm going to make a TV show. And I did this. And you can find that online, by the way.
I'd love to see that. I went to my 20th detention my sophomore year, my oldest sister's 20th birthday. And her birthday's in December. So I had 20 detentions between September and December. And then I was on the football team and the football coaches started going, we're going to make you run till you puke if you keep this detention stuff up. So that was actually motivating. The detentions I didn't care about, but my coaches, who were these mean Korean war vets, were like, Elwood, I'm going to run you till your goddamn dick falls off. Those guys made me straighten up and I became a model citizen.
Really?
Oh yeah. I was captain of the football team my senior year.
Wow. You don't look like it. Well, I mean, not that I'm
Wow, Graham, you look weak and spindly. And
You were president of the Magic Club.
Max is
okay.
Did you know you had that in your ear, ladies and gentlemen? Captain of the Magic Club.
What position did you play?
I was a linebacker.
A linebacker.
No
We're trying
way.
to discuss what these different
I
positions.
was like, did you go to school for tiny people? Like, you're not like a linebacker looking guy.
So I'm going to take it as a compliment.
I think of them as like 6'5" and 400 pounds.
Well, those are NFL linebackers. This is high school football. So
Okay.
It was in Chicago. And I mean, I was small for my position, but I was an angry young man and I like to hit. I like to hit. So I grew up in a divorced alcoholic home and I like to hit people. And this is they focused my anger.
Yeah.
The coaches were like, rather than getting in fights and going to detention, when we blow a whistle, you knock that guy down. And I was like, you got it, and I'd knock the guy over and I would get high-fived. I wouldn't get yelled at.
Right.
So I was like, you got it.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah.
I had one detention and that's it. And I decided, like, I was sitting there in the cafeteria and realized that everybody in there was pretty much a loser. And I thought, like, this is not my sort of scene and I'm never coming to this place again. And
you were scared straight.
I was. Yeah, I mean, they weren't even just like, it wasn't like they were menacing people. They were just like losers. And I thought, I don't want to hang out with losers anymore.
Balls.
This is really embarrassing that I have to sit next to them at the same table. So I was just a snob. I was snobbed straight.
Snob straight. Wow. The football team. So linebacker, that's part of the offensive line.
Defense.
Oh, it's a defensive
You
line.
don't know shit about football.
I don't know the positions.
So there's the defensive line.
Yeah.
And then the guys that stand right behind the defensive line, those are called linebackers. And the guys behind them are called the secondary, the safeties and the free safeties and stuff like that. So
On the defensive line.
Right. So there's the guys in the defensive line and then right behind them. So wouldn't stand up right on the line. So like that's like if a tight end comes across the middle, kind of you cover that sort of thing.
Okay.
Or you blitz.
So, and then who does the sacking?
Well, typically it's the lineman, but you can do a linebacker blitz, which I got some sacks doing that where
Right.
Are you who's the one that protects the quarterback?
That's the center and the offensive line. That's on the other side of the ball. I was on the defense. We were trying to stop the offense.
Yeah, I get it.
Who's the best defensive line in NFL history? Is it the Steel Curtain from the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s?
That's a toss-up. I would say they're close. The Steel Curtain was great, but then as a Chicagoan, I'd have to go with the 85 Bears, who had one of the best defenses ever. That's
Mike Ditka's.
That's Ditka's team, yes. Mike Singletary was the linebacker, who was like 6'6'1". He was small for his position, which is why I looked up to him.
Of course. How does Patrick Mahomes stack up against Tom Brady?
Mahomes is probably going to break Brady's records.
No kidding.
Whoa.
Brady's great.
What?
He's the greatest quarterback ever, but Mahomes is 27, 28. He's already won 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he could get close to winning 7 like Brady and maybe more. If there's a guy, the guy in the league today that I think that could break Brady's records would be Mahomes. That's my guess.
Yeah, if he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy.
And then the guy in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson.
He's really good.
He's incredible because he's always running.
He's so fast and he's got an amazing arm.
Right.
Whatever happened to Antonio Brown?
Yeah, I think he got injured.
No.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, he got arrested or something.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Close. Wow. Yeah. He that was sad because he was the one that runs down to the end zone and catches the ball.
He's the wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very, very talented, but he's like he got hit in the head too many times or something. He had some issues, right?
I played with some, that's the thing about sports. And like, if you're born with a lot of athletic ability and talent, then what can happen, and I don't know if this is what specifically happened to Antonio Brown, you can be then, and this actually ties back into the shit coins, you can then be corrupted because some coach in high school is going to fix your grades.
Right.
They do that in college. The alumni buy you stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're never held accountable for bad behavior. As long as you're scoring touchdowns, we don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's the same thing with the shit coins. It's like, and it's tempting.
Yes.
I mean, there's guys I played with who were a lot bigger, stronger, faster than me that would have got Division I scholarships and maybe even played in the NFL, but they didn't have a great childhood, or they had cases, or they couldn't focus. And that's why why do I say Patrick Mahomes? He's got great parents. He's got a stable home life.
Oh, right.
His dad was a pro athlete. His dad played pro baseball.
Right. I've seen some interviews with his dad. He's totally based, down to earth guy. And
so his dad can go, son, the girls and the Lamborghinis and that stuff, leave that alone. Like, go train, go watch film footage, marry a nice woman. Like, don't get caught up in that because he saw it. And then when you become a pro athlete, now you're talking about millions of dollars and people are just giving you stuff and as a man, you've got beautiful women throwing it at you.
Right.
Like, that's not normal. It's like child actors.
Right.
How they grew up, they were raised to be nuts. So these athletes who were like amazing at age 14.
Yeah.
They were playing on the varsity at age 14 or whatever. They're not, they didn't get in, that's why some of the best pro athletes like Tom Brady, he was always an underdog. He's good in high school, but then college, he's
always the underdog.
He was drafted 119th or whatever. So he wasn't that like, it's all given to you.
Well, you see the same thing with the girls in high school, the prom queen, the most attractive ones. When I go back all these decades later, like they're still there in the same town, and like they never did anything. It's for the most part. Yeah. But that's more common that they stay there because they had it so easy that they never really had to try.
Yep. And now there's pitching a crypto.
Yeah. The geeks in high school and the freaks, they went on to do stuff. And
because they were the underdogs.
Yeah, the underdogs. Yeah.
Which
Incredible.
is what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin started out as the underdog and now is the king because it's the smartest, best thing.
Yeah. And there's no ego because there's nobody there.
So how long do we do this show for?
We're doing this for 57 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's like good time to wrap shit up.
Yeah.
It's time to wrap because you know what? It's Friday. We head to the beach.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm sick of Graham at this point. I mean, I can
telling high school football stories.
High school football stories. How fucking have we really come to that barrel scraping moment of the show or nothing topical or interesting
died
can
on
be
stage
talked about? Let's all just die together. And Graham's
our souls just
died. And
I'm selling Graham high school football coin. It's a really good shit.
Don't say anything like that because these fucking idiots will be out there doing it.
Oh god!
And then the Silicon Valley VCs will be promoting it by this time next week. It'll be worth $12 billion. And then you'll be in the blame. It'll be all your fault.
I'm sorry. I'm joking.
Okay?
Not serious.
You can't.
Don't do that.
These guys have no sense of humor.
None.
Just remember, the community is made up equally of autists and masochists. That's kind of the whole community. That's it. Anyway, so Are you wrapping it up?
I guess we can wrap it up unless there's anything else, any other news you guys want to bring up that people should know of. I know there's some investments coming into the country and stuff like that, or anything that like people should keep their eye out on.
Oh yeah, we have so much stuff coming in. 2024 is going to be the year. We have lots of amazing stuff, and it's proof of work, right?
Yeah, proof of work.
It's proof of work. We've been working our butts off for 2 years, and it's starting to really roll in now, and that's super. What else?
I would imagine too, just with the re-election, the overwhelming 85% re-election.
Yeah.
Now it's just like green light for.
Oh yeah, everybody wants to come meet him now. So everybody likes a winner, right? And it was the biggest landslide in Democratic history anywhere in the world, right? Nobody's won that big of a margin over the number two. Like he got over 85% of the vote. The next guy got like 2%. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. I mean, that's a mandate, right? The US presidents will declare a mandate. I have a mandate now, 53% of the vote.
Yeah.
And the other guy got 47%. And you're like, that
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a mandate to me, but
Mandate my ass.
Well, it's also a mandate in the sense that there's the New Ideas Party got 58 of 60 seats. Is that correct?
56 of 60,
56
it
of
looks
60?
like. Yeah. Well, they're still determining it, but it's not 50. It doesn't look like it's 58, maybe. But yeah, I mean, they swept the House too, the Assembly. So yeah, it looks good. And I can't wait to see what happens now. Like this is, the president always tweets, strong men create good times, from that classic, weak men create the bad times. And now we're having the good times. So I think we're in the very early stages of it. I mean, Max and I were super early, the pioneer stage, but now is the early days of the good times. So I think 2024 and 2025, it'll mirror Bitcoin too. I think Bitcoin by 2025, the end of 2025 is going to be, I just did a cross-eyed thing where I was like, whoa,
It'll be like in the 650, 200,000 or more probably?
Yes, I believe so. Let's see, but I think it will be reflected here. It's like a mirror image where
I've
Bitcoin
never
country-
seen you do cross-eyed.
Wow.
I've never seen you do that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
You like it?
I've never seen
I
you
might do that as my Carrot Top type chick. I'm going to go to Vegas, get $1 million a night. All I'm going to do is like,
That's it. The crowd goes nuts.
that's it.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
That's going to be like a screen grab that people are going to post on Twitter, and I'm going to hate it so much. Well, thank you for making me do it like 3 times, encouraging me.
Now we have a whole film based on it.
This is why you have to be toxic, because some guy is going to convince you to give him 1 Bitcoin for a sat, or tell you to do some more cross-eyed.
Oh my God. Well, Graham, we're leaving.
we're out.
Come on.
Folks, that's our show. Thank you so much. I know you guys are going to be traveling, but I'll keep the show going. And,
The show must go on.
Show must
Graham.
go on. Orange Pill will continue. We will keep this going. There's going to be more cool stuff. We got next week. We've got some members of government we're going to be interviewing. We got some people from Me Premier Bitcoin. So it's going to be fantastic. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. All the analytic stuff helps. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification button. We're going live like 3 days a week. And then we're dropping more clips now. There's going to be a whole much more content coming out. So just keep tuning in, keep liking, keep subscribing, and, buy Bitcoin. Thanks.